Sorry. I hope you can see it, and I hope you can hear me good.
Yes, that's good.
Yes,
thank you.
Thank you so much. So my topic is about, as Hassan was saying, lifelong learning in the new social contract for education, because lifelong learning has been really a hot topic on the global agenda to reach the SDG goals, not just number 4, but actually all of them. And lifelong learning has maybe taken back the interpretation, which was when it was coined, that the concept. But lifelong learning actually starts from early childhood and really the life of the human being. So lifelong learning was on a period connected more maybe with continuing education and learning after some kind of education, either university or elsewhere. I am an independent researcher and consultant in this field about lifelong learning and social contract and the quality in open online learning. So this will be my topic for today. I always think it is important to remind us about the UN UNESCO sustainability goals and the agenda for 2030. And we have to realize that 2030 is not very far ahead. And we have a lot more to do to really reach, not at least for the SDG 4 on education, not leaving anyone behind. But the SDG 4 it is important because that is also why it was an own goal, because it has a direct impact on many of the others, or it foster innovation in some of them, and it will lead to that we will reach probably all of the other 16 goals. So it is really, really important. And I think a connection is very, very strong with health and education. So we always have to have that in the background when we are talking about education and about learning and why it is important with a new social contract for education. We also need to remind ourselves about the global trends, and I know very well that all of you are very well aware of them, and they are maybe expressed in different kind of concepts or contexts. But just to know what we are talking about, first of all, global competence and citizenship is very important because the world becomes increasingly interconnected, and also include intercultural understanding as languages, culture, history, etc. And it's really, really important. And lifelong learning and skills development. We who are from Europe, we know that this year is especially dedicated to this year of the skills, because there are new skills which we have to be familiar with and to learn, that maybe those basic ones as just reading, writing, mathematics, etc. But there are other kind of skills which we have to learn, not at least with the development of AI. Personalized learning is becoming more and more important. And also what you mentioned, Hassan, about inclusion and equity, to really see that each and everyone are involved and included on their premises and on equity base. And it's more and more important with partnership and stakeholder engagement. And that is also more possible due to the digital transformation and due to internet, not at least. There is a need for continuous quality improvement. And also about integration of technology, not just to learn about technology and to have ads on, but really about the integration of technology in learning spaces, and data-driven decision-making, and about innovative assessment and teachers' professional development. And critical thinking and creativity and collaboration is really, really important. We also know very well the situation, how it was back in 2020, when COVID-19 pandemic was reached and hit us all over the world. And there are a lot of lessons learned from that, which we also have to take into account when we are talking about lifelong learning in a new social contract. And that is also why, COVID-19 was terrible, but also in one way, due to COVID-19 and the pandemic, we learned a lot of lessons, and those vulnerable situations and activities system became very, very obvious, and we have to learn that lesson and to take responsibility for that worldwide. Already, even before the COVID-19 outbreak, UNESCO was working on an initiative called Futures of Education, Learning to Become, because learning to become what each of us wants to become and have the possibility to become is very, very important. Not just what education can offer, but what we as individuals and humans can become at our potentials. So they made a worldwide consultation during a 2-year period with all kinds of stakeholders around the globe. A lot of reports were read and analyzed. Focus groups were conducted, workshops, etc., etc. So they really had a global consultation, and that resulted in the new social contract for education, which I will talk a bit more about. But already they come up with those 9 ideas for public actions, what was needed to be done. For example, the first one, a strengthened public commitment to education as a common good, because that also goes back to the Human Rights Declaration already from 1948, about that education is a human right, and it needs to be accessible for all people around the globe. And that is really all, not leaving anyone behind. And if we should reach, for example, university education for all, we need to build 1 university a day. And that is not possible, neither desirable. So that is why open education can make a difference, reaching all individuals, not leaving anyone behind. So the new social contract, maybe some of you have been involved in this process. It's now called Reimagine Our Future Together, because partnership and togetherness is very important, because it is our futures. And future is in plural, because there is not one future fits all. And this is needed because there's a need to repair injustices while transforming their futures. Here are just some of the citations from the report. There is a need for learning to empathize, to cooperate, to address prejudice and bias, and to navigate conflict are valuable in every society. And today's gaps in access, participation, and outcomes are based on yesterday's exclusions and oppressions. So that is why there is a need for a new social contract. Here are some other citations. For example, that we have to prepare young people to play a dynamic and constructive part in the development of a society in which all members share fairly in the good or bad fortune for the group, and in which progress is measured in terms of human well-being, not prestige buildings, cars, or other such things. And our education must therefore inculcate a sense of commitment to the total community and help the pupils to accept the values appropriation to a kind of future. I think well-being is very much stressed in this new social contract, because well-being and caring have become a quality parameter. And genuine education must engage the purposes and energies of those being educated. To secure such engagement, teachers must build relationship of care and trust. So you see again, caring and trust and relationships and the communication and well-being is very much stressed. So education is not just about the subject or the majors or whatever. The final report is in 2 parts, and here is the table of content. So the first part is about between past promises and uncertain future, because the only thing we know is that the future is very uncertain. And we also know that the development is very, very rapid. And we also know that it is very difficult to target what is going on, because it is like to shoot like on a moving animal, because the target is moving all the time. So chapter 1 is about towards more equitable education futures. Chapter 2 is about disruptions and emerging transformations. Chapter 3 is about pedagogies and cooperation and solidarity, and why there is a need for a changed pedagogical framework. About curricula and the evolving knowledge commons. UNESCO is, for example, saying that in each and every curricula and each and every subject, the sustainability development goals should be included in each of every activity within education and for learning. Chapter 5 is about transformative work of teachers. Chapter 6 is about safeguarding and transforming schools. Chapter 7 is about education across different times and spaces. And that is also exactly what the COVID-19 learned us, that time and spaces have got different kind of meanings, not at least with distance education and with online learning. Part 2 of this report is about catalyzing a new social contract for education, and the call for research and innovation, and the call for global solidarity and international cooperation. You see that all those headings are quite large and like umbrella headings, but each of them are then divided. And it is also really mentioned that those headings and actions are needed for education for all and for a new social contract and for not leaving anyone behind. So it is not just about the course and the curricula, etc. It is about the situation for citizens and for people. And change is not just made by missions or visions or strategies and policies. Change is made by people. And that is why education is so important, because educated people can better be part of the global society, take responsibility, be part of democracy, have a better health, etc., etc. Another initiative which is focusing on this is from OECD and the Learning Compass for 2030. You see that it's also for 2030, exactly for the same time and for the development goals. And what you can see in this compass is also that well-being is very much stressed. And you see from the outer circle, for example, it is based on action, satisfaction, and reflection. And the inner circle is very much about values, about attitudes, about skills, competencies, because that is what is needed to be an active citizen. So you see from this compass, there are so many other kind of value propositions than just the subject or the mayor as such, or about the curricula. There is another framework from the workplace learning trends. And we can also see from this report from 2022 that here are other kind of competencies and skills and values needed at the labor market. Like, for example, power skills about communication, leadership. Actually, each of us are leaders in one or another way. It is about collaboration, personal development, and you see wellness come back here again. It is about tactical skills, like project managing, about business intelligence, like talent development. And it is, of course, about technical skills, which each of us, wherever we are in our life, either private or work life, need to know about. So you see those skills and competencies are so much more than to just be an engineer or a nurse. Of course, that is important what they are doing in their education for that, but there are so many other kind of competencies which are needed at the labor market. And also when we see job announcements, for example, we usually see those kind of competencies which are required Of course, it is needed to be the profession as such, but also those kind of competences. So that is why a culture of lifelong learning is needed. So now I will come into that subject with that background of the social contract and the SDGs. So there is a need for a cultural change, and lifelong learning is needed because of complexity of the modern life requires adaptability. As I said before, the only thing we know is that things are changing. And we also know COVID-19 was a disaster. But we also know that many crises will come afterwards. There will be floods, fires, many kind of crises. And we need to adapt to that and also to be prepared. And lifelong learning is an effective and potentially transformative means of addressing many of those challenges which we are facing. Also, that active citizenship enhance employability, promote human health and well-being, and strengthen community cohesion. In other words, they make an important contribution to sustainable development in all countries, regions, and communities. I have mentioned the shared challenges from COVID-19, and many of those vulnerable issues were very much obvious due to the COVID-19, which we have to take responsibility for. And also that non-formal and informal learning have become more and more merged. There are also other factors which make lifelong learning an economic, political, and social and environmental imperative. For every country, it plays an important role in reducing social and economic inequalities and promoting civic and community life. And lifelong learning can be a response to all those challenges of today and the decades to come, as the global challenges I started to talk about at the beginning. UNESCO have done a lot on lifelong learning. Actually, they have worked on this for the last almost 90 years, so it is not something new. It has been on the agenda for a very long time because it is so important. But as I said, maybe during a period of time, there was maybe some kind of this interpretation that lifelong learning was something which came after the normal educational system. And that is why universities and educational organizations need to transform both their systems, but also their offerings, because it is not just about today, but to get a bachelor, master, or PhD at the university, for example. People are coming in and out in the system, but universities globally are not prepared for that. And that is a really, really pity, and it's really, really, severe concerns, because it is needed, and that is why universities have to change their services and their systems. Those are just some of the reports which UNESCO have come up with the last couple of years. And you see it is also one of the reports, for example, is about inclusive lifelong learning in citizens, and because the citizens and the society is much more, need to be much more involved in education and learning. And lifelong learning is moving beyond education for all, because it is due to their lifetime. In Sweden, for example, where I come from, since 2020, it is now in the higher education audience that lifelong learning is one of the activities for university. So not just the education, research, and work on with the communities, the third sector, but lifelong learning is the fourth task. As you maybe saw from my background when I presented myself, and you can see from my wall, I'm working with ICDE, which is the International Council for Open and Distance Education, It is the oldest and largest organization in the world on open, flexible, and distance education. And we organized this year a conference in Lillehammer. We involved the participants in the roadmap for 2023 and to 2027 on lifelong learning. We asked the participants what they were thinking about lifelong learning and the way forward at all the levels, like macro level, like meso level, like micro level, and nano level. And this is what was coming up with that from that conference. It is available, as you can see from the link. So targeting many kind of, that is also important with lifelong learning, because it is not just one sector who is responsible for one of the levels. It needs to be integrated in all levels, so nothing is falling in between. There was this summer 2023, a large conference in Bali, where UNESCO again worked with this Bali Manifesto for embracing inclusion, exactly what Hassan was talking about, a roadmap to lifelong learning for all. Maybe some of you have seen this manifesto. So why is this important? Because we are also moving towards a new quality agenda when we look at education and learning. First of all, it is important to rethink the questions on why education, why learning, who is dealing with it, when, what, which levels, and how, to see the ecosystem. It is always important to start when you're starting to rethink for a systemic change, to really consider those open questions. Some of the parameters for a new quality agenda could include what is listed here. Well-being and health, I've been talking about quite a lot, about caring, about social growth, ethics. There's other kind of value propositions, satisfaction, engagement, impact, equity. You see the list is quite long. Inclusivity, learnability, as we're talking about lifelong learning. Working on with a triple helix approach about diversity to prepare citizens for today and for the futures. About both individual and society growth. And it goes back again to the article 48 from the about human rights. Education is important for, it's a human right for everyone. It is about social justice, equity, equality, and to reach the SDGs. So what are the domains of life-wide and life-deep learning? It is in this figure, it is 3 dimensions. It is about lifelong learning. It is about life-wide learning modalities, about life-deep learning. And here again, we can see the ecosystem. We have the education and learning from childhood, youth, adulthood. We have the merge with informal, non-formal, and formal education. And we have culture and cognition and communication as life-deep learning parameters. I will end my presentation to announce for you that the upcoming ICD conference is organized in Costa Rica in November the 6th to 10th, where those issues also will be addressed. And as I said, I think earlier, ICD is the oldest and the largest organization globally in the field of open, flexible, and distance education, addressing very much what I have been talking about today, about lifelong learning, about reaching the SDGs, about the human rights, equity, quality issues. There are still time to register. The theme is about joining hands in peace for the futures of education. So by that, I will end my presentation.
Ebba, thank you very much for these valuable sharings. Dear guests, if you have questions, please, you can write on the message box and we can answer them maybe at the end of the session, if it's suitable. Okay, thank you. Thanks again, Ebba.
Thank you so much.
We can go on with Dr. Ramesh Sharma. Ramesh, if you are okay, we can go on with you, please.
Thank you, Hassan, for the opportunity, and it is wonderful. I have chosen this topic for disability and the universal design because a lot is happening in this field. I would, okay, just a minute. So I would like to begin with a very small story. This is from one of the Indian mega mythology, the Mahabharata. In which these 5 brothers, they were there and they were in exile and they were very thirsty, looking for water. So they reached a pond and the god appeared there, wanted them that I will ask some questions. You answer them. If the answer is right, you can take water, but they didn't listen. So as soon as they touched the water, they died. So ultimately the eldest of them, when searching for the younger brothers, he reached there. Again, it right. So he asked them that who has killed my brothers? And then the Yaksh, the demigod appeared and asked that I will ask some questions. So one of the questions, there were many questions, but one of them was that what is heavier than earth, higher than heavens, faster than the wind, and more numerous than straw. But the thing is here is about what is faster than the wind, and that is our mind thought. But the answer to other question are that what is heavier than earth is mother, what is higher than heavens is father, and more numerous than straws are our concerns, issues, and problems. What we keep on thinking like that. The question is the faster than the wind, the mind, the thoughts, which we air. So interacting with the world faster, there are certain things, and it all basically starts with the brain. And you must have seen all these movies that in which the heroes and they put something in that, and then our hero, he can become a poet or Bruce Lee or something, those kind of things. In fact, this kind of thing is so happening that even it is believed that China is monitoring its employees' brain waves and emotions like that, so that they want to control them and noting their brain activity on what is happening to them. There is a lot of research, like you can control this robot with your mind without any direct intervention. And the researchers, they have created such a system which can read a person's brain while watching the robot, and then from the signals from brain. So a quick overview of what is a brain. It is basically a chemical electrical entity in which there are synapses and axons and dendrites, and then a signal due to the chemical structure, it happens and passes on from there. So the science has made it possible that we can see the brain's electrical activity. In fact, it's quite interesting to note that any person, when dies in medical terms, one is the physical death, the death of the body, but then sometimes the brain, it keeps on sending signals. So the second stage is when the brain stops sending any kind of signal. So the brain death, then when it happens from there. So these are the kind of electrical activities. There have been certain experiments in which there are things that how we can control a machine using our mind. Like brain is, many people, they explain it like the brain is like our microprocessor of the human body as such. So there are, these are some of the, these are the important parts, the regions of the brain, which are involved in various kind of functions. You can see them. There are some which relate to emotion, some relate to visual, some related to problem solving, sensory information, and like that. Just a minute, it is occupying my, yes. The images, they were occupying my screen, so I wanted to. Okay, then the situation arose because there are individuals with severe neuromuscular impairments, and there was a need to do something for them. It is believed that already millions of people all over the globe, they suffer various kind of injuries, and in that the spinal cord injury is one of the prominent. So if any patient who has lost the mobility, the ability to move an arm or leg or something due to a neuromuscular condition. So in these things, what can be done for them to help them in that kind of disability? So it is believed that scientist Luigi Galvani, somewhere in 1791, with the help of electricity when applied to a frog's leg, the muscle twist, and from there they carried out certain further experiments, and these fields of medicine they evolved, like electrical muscle stimulation, neuromuscular electrical stimulation, functional electrical stimulation, and electromyostimulation. So actually what happens that in a healthy person, the brain sends a signal to a particular organ, say for example our hand, and then we write with the help of that. So something happens, and then that connection, it gets broken or damaged, then what can be done? So then we try to put some sort of a bypass mechanism to that, and then again the signal goes there. So this is basically a representation of that. This is how our brain functions, that there are certain signals which are emanated from the brain. We capture them, we process them, and then using control devices, we try to make use of them. So this is the schematic thing on using the brain and putting some electrodes over there and capturing the signals, various kind of things. So these are certain the electrodes which are either surface based or implanted on the brain, in the brain, and capturing the data from there. So this is the field of EEG, in which we have certain cap on our head with the help of electrodes, and then the signals they are captured. So this is quite very interesting field. Typically there are these 5 kind of waves, and they deal with a particular function, like delta waves. They occur during sleep or in the coma stage, or emotional stress. Theta, alpha deals with mental imagery, beta with mental activity, mu with intention of movement, lambda is visual attention, vertex is for encephalopathy and or patients with epilepsy, something like that. So there are certain developments in it, particularly Elon Musk. He has already declared that he's creating a chip which can be put inside the brain, and then that can be happen. There are other researches as well, like brain-computer interface technology for epilepsy, in which the US, even FDA department, they have approved certain medical devices that utilizes BCI technology for epilepsy for the patients. So this is little a brief quick history of that. It is believed that it was in 1924 when Berger recorded the human brain activity by means of EEG, and then certain algorithms were developed like that. So in one of the earlier works, which was done by at the University of Washington School of Medicine, they found that a monkey could operate a robotic arm with brain-computer interfacing, without any direct contact with them. So this field, and then there are certain, like the famous Star Wars character Darth Vader. The arms and legs when damaged, they were replaced with prosthetics, and then which were operated by a special neuron rig that was connected to his brain, and like that. So he is Kevin Warwick, professor of cybernetics at Reading University. Became the first world cyborg. You may remember the Arnold Schwarzenegger Terminator, the famous hand of the movement, like that. So this is it had a radio RFID, we call it as radio frequency ID implanted in the arm, and then the movement can be captured from there. So basically the signals, they are captured, and during that then we create certain applications for, like for spelling devices, neuroprosthetics, wheelchair patients, and something the feedback goes into it. So they are of various kinds. For visualization, for light, colors, images, video, motion, etc. Sonification pertaining to sounds. Then we have the haptic, which is pertaining to vibration or tactile or thermal, and then olfactory stimulation like sand, sensing something, and pheromones like that. This has been, and particularly Dr. Hassan may recall it, we had our good colleague Nilgun there in Anadolu University. They had that HCI lab in which they were working on something. So this is quite an interesting example in which the patient, they see the cursor, and with their eye movement, the cursor can be moved. So using the brain signals, they just imagine that the cursor is moving and the cursor can be moved. So this is basically the framework for that, on how these things, they are captured. So it has a lot of potentials with us, that because it doesn't involve any voluntary motor function, and it's quite helpful, have been found in cognitive functions to interact with the external environments. It has been very good for assistive technology, like for autism, aphasia, brain strokes, spinal cord injury, or neurodegenerative diseases, found to be quite useful in that. So like these are the applications, and particularly for the Parkinson's disease, when the person is not able to use some organ frequently, these things. Most important of them is this P300 signal, meaning that the signal is seen on an EEG as the rapid signal potential change as a response to some kind of either sensory or cognitive or motor event from there. So overall, globally, this is one of the growing industry. A lot of investment is being done into it, because there are certain factors, because the brain disorder patients, they are increasing, neuroimaging technology are improving, sensor applications in the field of medical sciences, they are much more, and particularly they have been found quite applicable in education, and particularly in defense. Let us see some of them. But there are certain challenges like cost structures or poor information transfer rate of BCI, means the capturing from there. So like a cure for paralyzed brain disorder, or better smart home control systems, calibrating in physically challenged individuals, or particularly in the gaming enterprise as well. So you see the regional growth there, and on the basis of market segmentation in terms of hardware, like Open BCI, which are like Raspberry or Arduino, the things they are created, or in terms of software, like OpenWipe, which is open source software for BCI. And particularly, if we see its segmentation, this is of three types: invasive, in which the electrodes, they are put into the green matter of the brain. Then partially invasive means it is the electrodes, they are put on the surface of the bare brain. And then non-invasive, you have some kind of skull cap, so it is put on the head, like that, those kind of technologies. So they have their applications in medical, gaming, communication, control, etc. And by technology, you have fMRI, intracortical neuro recording, near infrared spectroscopy, like that. It has applications. And the end user segment is in education, healthcare, defense is where been found more. So you see these kind of applications which are quite useful for there. And this is communication by thought. So using your brain signal, we can make like controlling a prosthesis, or in gaming or something. There are quite interesting research also, like Sarah, Ayman, and other colleagues, they researched on the applications and challenges of BCI. This is an example of this research in which the author found that the people with severe motor disability, they could use brain signal to operate a robotic arm. So this is quite a lot of significant. Another research by Tao Gang, they found that the subjects, they could successfully control the robot to circumnavigate obstacles and reach some specific target in separate rooms by motor imagery of their hands and feet. Similarly, this is non-invasive brain actuated control of a mobile robot by human EEG with the help of the brain signals that can. Then this is an application for music. Here the research demonstrated that the technique was used to create musical notation in a continuous fashion required for acoustic music performance. And this research pertains to how, with the help of brainwaves, the computers and the machines, they could be managed or controlled. So there are certain applications like this is brain weight used to restore the communication or mobility or making the people independent, those who are suffering from some kind of neurologic disease or limb loss or something. So this is another, it is called as StarStim, a form of non-invasive neuromodulation. So you see this a kind of a cap, and this device results in reduction of seizure frequency at least 40% from the baseline in 75% of the patients from there. It has its application in consumer gaming as well. So this is the kind of hardware brain property, and this is the neurofeedback device that is one like a headband to improve focus by training certain brainwave frequencies. So those with certain kind of cognitive ability, they can find it quite useful for them. Similarly, there are so many applications that controlling the machine with the power of mind and making the science fiction a reality from there. This not only helps, it also helps in understanding the consumer behavior. There have been researches in which the brainology was able to analyze the responsive biomarkers and determine the most effective, memorable commercials here using the Super Bowl or other kind, like measuring the brain activity or the eye tracking movement. So how the consumer would react to a particular situation. Similarly, this is the NeuroCap and Neuro EEG, which is worn and to capture the signal from there. This is quite interesting. It's a few years ago, this study came that a MIT researcher developed a real Hogwarts sorting hat. And this hat can determine what a person is thinking. You can see that, quite dangerous. So what Hassan is thinking right now, if I put the hat on that, I can find that he's saying, oh, Ramesh is taking more time. I have to stop him. Like so, that is there. And then how to upload knowledge to your brain. This is that Matrix movie coming to real life. That, upload all the encyclopedia. So you don't need ChatGPT. You will know everything again from there. So this was in Frontiers in Human Neuroscience. That study was published sometimes ago. MIT is doing a lot of good work. Then McGovern Institute for Brain Research, they are how new MRI sensors, they can image the activity within the brain. Then applications for epilepsy control. Then the robotic stroke rehabilitation system for the people. And then this is quite interesting. You see, this person, a person means 65-year-old person paralyzed from neck down, could type out messages on a computer at 90 characters per minute, faster than any non-brain machine interface. Like, so you can see how powerful this technology it has gone. So this is how that thing was done. That you put the electrodes and from the signals, then that, so these patterns, they can be then captured on the screen from there. This is on how brain performance can, from brain to text communication via handwriting. People who have lost the ability either to move or to speak, this is quite going to be very useful for them. Similarly, training the artificial intelligence to train the brain activity into a text using certain sort of machine learning algorithms. And this research were published in Nature Neuroscience in there. Then this is, you can see the kind of electrodes which are put on the top of the brain. And this is AI to translate brain signals into a speech as a brain implant, so that they can serve the people with impaired ability to speak their minds in there. So this is like transforming brain waves into the words with the AI. The person is thinking, and then the machine using neural signal processing, speech detection, word classification, language modeling, etc. The person is able to write their plan. So certain applications challenges. Oh, I think you won't get the audio in it. I forgot to share the computer, but anyway. So here is Elon Musk, the richest person on earth, hopes to test a brain implant in humans very quickly. So this is Neuralink, his research. And then this is from neuron to computer, the link, where the micron scale threads would be inserted into the area of the brain that control the movement. And each thread contains many electrodes and connects them to an implant. They are calling it the link. So this is a kind of that link and the neural threads from there. And this is the app for that, which can be using your mobile phone. Those things, they can be controlled from there. So there are certain cognitive rules of brain-computer interface, like using CSS or something. The user can put the content, then adjusting the information flow using brain imaging. The system knows approximately how the user attention and cognitive resources are allocated. So cognitive overload can be avoided. The system will send. Similarly, if the user is thinking really hard, system will detect and manage the pending things, interrupting those kind of things. And if the user is staring blankly at the wall, this system differentiates between deep thought and no thought. Those kind of things go with there. There are certain uses at the higher cognitive events as well, like those systems which could tailor the interface to provide feedback. So the aha moment or the oh moment, those come with it. So thank you so much. Anwar says no audio. Really, Hassan, I think my audio was there.
Yeah, it's okay.
Very good.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Ramesh. Thank you for your contribution. As I said before, please write your question at the message box and we can answer them maybe at the end of the panel. Yes, we just got new information about the third speaker, Uğurcan Kutluoğlu. Unfortunately, he will not able to attend the panel due to the health problems. So we will continue with the fourth speaker, Dr. Yeliz Yeşilada.
Hello.
Yes, hello. If you are okay, we can continue. Thank you.
Hi. Good evening, everybody. I hope everybody is okay. Thanks for the invitation. I'm very happy to be here. And I'd like to also thank the organizers. It's going really well. I'd like to first share my slides. Please let me know if you can see them, okay?
Yes, perfectly.
Okay, thank you very much. I actually prepared my slides in Turkish, so I'll do my presentation bilingual. I'll do my presentation in English. My slides will be in Turkish, but I'll, of course, translate everything to English. Let me first introduce myself. I'm Yeliz Yeşilada. I'm actually a faculty member at Middle East Technical University, Northern Cyprus campus. So I'm actually based in Northern Cyprus. At Meto NCC, we have a lab, which is called Interaction Analysis and Modeling Lab. In this lab, we actually do research in collaboration with University of Manchester Computer Science Department. Our research is mainly focused on human-computer interaction, in particular web accessibility, smart web-based systems, and eye tracking technology. So today, what I wanted to do is I actually wanted to give a flavor of the projects that we've been conducting, just to show you the research that we've been doing. I'll be presenting you briefly 3 research projects. So the first one is about web accessibility, and especially in the evaluation of web accessibility, a large-scale web accessibility evaluation. The second project that I will try to present you, it's about accessibility, actually web accessibility, but particularly certain components of web pages and how to make them accessible. And the last one is about the autism and especially autism diagnosis via eye tracking technology. And we particularly look at pre-screening. So the first project, project 1, which is web accessibility and evaluation of web accessibility. Just wanted to highlight that when I say web, I mean actually the World Wide Web, the web pages and web applications. The web is actually a very important resource for everybody these days, particularly for disabled people. It's actually a great opportunity because the web gives us the access to lots of different things. For example, libraries, e-learning, e-government. So through the web, we can actually access different resources. But of course, the web is, unfortunately, it's not designed in the mind. It's typically designed for visual presentation. And it's not designed in the mind for accessibility or with the needs of disabled users. So web accessibility, just to define what we mean by web accessibility actually means the web is accessible to everybody, especially for disabled users. So how the web is actually accessible to disabled users, depending on their needs, they can actually access the web in different ways. For example, they can access the web via assistive technologies like screen readers, or they can actually use assistive devices. So for example, braille display. The web pages themselves need to be designed, as I said, with that in mind, but unfortunately, that's not the case. So for example, if you have a web page, I just picked the website as an example. This is actually the homepage of Turkey Gov.tr. So this is the main homepage of Turkish e-government. So with this page, for example, is this page accessible or not? So that's the question we are trying to actually address. So given this page, visually looks very nice. But what happens if you access it in audio, for example, or what happens if you access it in an alternative form? Is this page accessible? So what we do to actually answer that question, we typically evaluate the page. So just to let you know, on the slides, I actually have the screenshot of the homepage of the Turkey.gov.tr. So in order to do this, we typically have tools which they automatically check the accessibility of pages against certain guidelines. The most widely known guidelines around the world is Web Content Accessibility Guidelines, or WCAG or WCAG. So WCAG basically includes a lot of very detailed requirements for different disabilities, different user groups. So with an automated tool, you can take this page and assess automatically whether this page is, for example, conforming to those guidelines. But the automated accessibility evaluation, of course, cannot test everything on the page, cannot check, for example, the current technology allows us to check, for example, if there is an alternative text for an image that can be used for a screen reader, but it cannot check whether the alternative text is actually describing the image properly within the given context. So when you have a website, so for example, this website that I show you, Turkish governmental website, it is actually a huge website. So I just show you the homepage of it, but it has many, many pages. So the question is, how do we actually test the full website? Not just the homepage. We want to check the full website. So WCAG actually has an evaluation methodology, which is called WCAG evaluation methodology. So what this evaluation methodology does, it actually has certain steps. So it says, for example, the step 1, you need to define the scope of the evaluation. Step 2, you need to explore the target website. What are the pages that you want to evaluate? Step 3, you need to select the representative sample. Step 4, you audit the selected sample. And step 5, you report the findings. So these are very clear steps, but unfortunately, the websites, it's not easy to define what is the website. So the website, for example, includes lots of pages. It includes lots of pages that are dynamically generated. It includes pages that are part of the sub-sites of a given site, etc. So in our research, what we try to do, we try to improve this evaluation methodology such that you can actually evaluate large-scale websites. So we have an evaluation methodology. We call it optimal EM, optimal evaluation methodology. What this optimal evaluation methodology does, it tries to integrate different artificial intelligence-based techniques to actually improve the evaluation of a large site. So how do we incorporate the AI? So the step 1 is establishing the population of the website. So what are the pages that we are referring to? So what is the site? So in order to define that, we actually explore different ways of defining a website. In step 2, we choose the features and attributes of those pages. In step 3, we actually do clustering of the pages in a given website. We group them together by using AI algorithms. And what we do in step 4, we pick samples from those pages to actually evaluate. We already published part of this research, but still it's actually an ongoing research. So we recently published a paper in the World Wide Web Conference. And in that paper, for example, we explored different ways of representing a page. And we actually used University of Manchester's website, which includes 388 pages. And we also picked 3 sites from Common Crawl. We particularly picked the website of University of Cambridge, Goodreads, and the Eclipse Foundation, which each include 500 pages. And from those, we actually show that the HTML structure, underlying structure, is very important for representing the pages and clustering them. And what we do is actually, I'm showing a screenshot basically from a results of applying AI algorithms to actually cluster the website. So this is actually from Goodreads. I show you that we used it as an example site. So from Goodreads, we clustered each color. So this figure shows lots of dots, and the dots are actually grouped together in certain colors. So for example, we have blue color, we have red color, yellow color, orange, light, basically light blue. So each of these actually representing us a set of pages that are similar to each other. So in this research, we are saying that instead of evaluating, for example, 500 pages, you can actually, in this case, we have certain clusters. We generated 45 clusters. So what you can do is you can pick 45 pages to evaluate, rather than evaluating, let's say, given the e-government pages, it includes lots of pages. So rather than evaluating many pages, we reduce it to 45, and you evaluate these representative samples to do the evaluation. So it gives you a big picture of the site. So this was actually the first research project that I wanted to mention. This project is still ongoing. We have particularly a PhD student working on it. So this project is still under development. The second project I wanted to talk about is actually, we are also looking at the accessibility of different components on web pages. So for example, one important component is table structure. So given a web page, they include lots of tables. Tables are very complex, especially if you are trying to access them in audio, especially for blind users. If you are blind and you're trying to access a table in audio, and if the table is large, it gets very complicated. So we did a research in 2020 And in that research, we actually investigated 30,000 web pages. And from these 30,000 web pages, we actually looked at the accessibility of 16,000 tables. And from these 16,000 tables, we show that, for example, almost all of them are inaccessible. For example, 80%, they don't include captions. So caption is one of the things that a screen reader uses to present the table in audio, for example. So we continued on this research. One other problem with the tables is especially differentiating tables that are basically used for data presentation or tables used for presenting visual information. So they are not actually tables, but on web pages, they're used to present another visual data, but they are using table tag. So in our research, we actually develop especially machine learning based supervised learning algorithms, AI algorithms, to where they can actually detect whether given a table is a data table or is it a layout table? Because for a sighted user, for example, you can visually see whether a table is used to organize the page or it's a data table. So we actually use machine learning technologies to actually identify and differentiate tables for data used for data and tables that are used for visual presentation. So the last project, so these were about the ensuring or improving accessibility of web pages and websites. And the last project that I want to present is about the autism detection. So autism is actually considered as a neurological development disorder. So autism can have different symptoms. There can be different levels of autism, but typically it's people with autism or with autism spectrum disorder. People usually or typically have difficulty in communication, behavioral, or motor skills. Their motor skills can also be affected. So what we try to do in our research, we try to use eye tracking technology to see if we can actually differentiate people with autism from their eye tracking data. And of course, as you can see from the first two projects I show you, we are focusing on the web. So in our research, we are using web technologies to see whether we can differentiate people with autism and without autism from their eye tracking data. So just to show you what do we mean by eye tracking, there can be different kinds of eye trackers. And now on my slides, I'm showing you a very typical eye tracker on the left. So this eye tracker is actually integrated with a desktop computer. And what this eye tracker does, it actually sends infrared signals to the user's eyes. And then the eye tracker, it actually records the reflections of the eye movements. So these reflections, I'm showing you on the right, visual web page, AVG. This is the homepage of AVG. And I am showing you dots on the screen on top of this web page. And these dots, they are numbered. They actually show in which order this user is actually reading this page. So they start from, for example, one dot, they move to the other, etc. And the larger dot means they actually fixate longer. So that means they look at that part of the page longer. And the lines in between the dots, that means they have a shift. So the user's eyes are moving. So just to show you a video recording of an eye tracking data from one user. So this is actually the homepage of Babylon website. So these are the websites that we used in our experimental research. So the homepage of Babylon, basically, I'm going to show you a little video. in this little video, you need to follow the red dot. So the red dot shows the visualization of one user and how they are actually reading the page. So as you can see, the red dot is actually moving in the different parts of the page. The user is spending longer in the middle part of the page. The middle part has a big download free version button. So the user is spending longer in there, but you can see that the user eyes is actually moving around in the page, and they're actually reading different parts of the page. So this page is a typical web page. It actually includes menu at the top, then an image, and the text at the bottom. And the user is actually jumping from one part of the page to the other to read it. So in our research, we were actually asking, can we actually identify people with autism from their eye tracking data? So what we did is we actually conducted 2 eye tracking studies. These 2 studies, they're actually conducted in collaboration with University of Wolverhampton and University of Manchester in UK and Meto NCC. So we actually collected 2 data sets. In the first data sets, we have 15 people with autism and 15 without autism. So 15 people with autism, they are formally diagnosed, and they are actually classified as, officially people with autism. We used 6 web pages, and we actually collected around 350 to 70 data points. And with the second data set, we collected 2 data sets. This time we had 19 people with autism and 19 people without autism. In this second study, we actually used 8 different web pages, and we collected between 650 to 1,200 data points. So with these 2 studies, they're actually conducted in different times and with different people. And what they did is actually in these 2 studies, we had 2 ways of collecting data. We asked users to glance through the page without any task. And we also asked them to complete a task. So for example, in the Babylon page, we asked them to actually, for example, find the part of the page where they can download the data, etc. So just to show you 2 eye tracking data, people with autism and without autism, we actually have 2 same web page, the homepage of Yahoo web page, and the one on the right is green. It's from somebody without autism, and the one on the left is in pink color, highlighted the eye tracking data of the user. That one is actually somebody with autism. So this visualization, just to explain what the visualization is, it actually shows how one particular user is reading that page. As I explained, smaller dot means they spent less time, larger dot means they spent longer time, and the lines in between them shows their transition. So you can actually see from this even from this visualization, those who cannot, of course, see, I'm trying to explain it as well. The one with the autism, they actually make a lot of transitions. So they're jumping between different parts of the pages much more than people without autism. And we actually show this statistically with the data supporting these kind of differences. So we show that the data really shows the differences. And we use this data to train AI algorithms. Just to let you know, I'll be finishing. I know I've got 20 minutes. I got a few more minutes and I will finish. So we actually use these kind of differences to train AI algorithms, artificial intelligence algorithms, especially machine learning algorithms, supervised algorithms, to actually see whether we can use these kind of differences to teach a algorithm to differentiate people with autism. We actually we explored different algorithms, but I'm just showing in here 3 different algorithms: decision tree, random forest, and extra trees. And we show that with an accuracy of 91%, we can actually identify, we can differentiate a person with autism. Just to summarize, what did I do today? I tried to give you a flavor of the projects that we are doing. Of course, I'll give you the URL of the our labs, so you can check our publications. With these 3 projects, I wanted to show you that we're trying to support web accessibility with artificial intelligence and in particular machine learning algorithms. I show you that we are trying to work with, for example, certain components like tables. We are also trying to improve the evaluation of web accessibility. And the last project I'll show you, we are trying to look at autism detection. Please note that I'm not saying this will replace the official diagnosis. Of course not. It can be used as a pre-screening tool. So that's all I wanted to present. Thank you very much for listening my talk. If you like to contact me later, my email address is yeliz@meto.edu.tr, and my homepage is www.yelizyesilada.info. You can also find out further details about my research. So that's all I wanted to present. Thank you very much, everybody. If there are any questions, I'll be more than happy to answer. Hasan Hocam, I hope I was on time.
Yes, thank you very much. It was excellent, and I listened with full heart, and really it was great. Thank you for your invaluable contributions, Yeliz Hocam. If we have questions, we can answer. Let me check the message box. I think there was a question from, let me check, from Sadur Ahmed about the sustaining the quality of education system. But his question, I think, was directed to Ebba, but unfortunately Ebba had to leave, and I think Sadur Ahmed isn't here now, so we couldn't answer these. If you have any question to Ramesh or Yeliz Hocam, we can take the questions.
But I would like to appreciate Yeliz's presentation. Yeliz, you have made such a fantastic presentation. Listening to your research was really a wonderful thing.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Yeah, your work is really impressive, and I wish that you continue doing that, because it's really autism is a serious issue.
Yes.
And certainly we need to do something solid for the autistic children. So I appreciate your
thank you
research.
very much. We actually, in our research, we work with older adults, but we are planning to also work with children. Since we collaborated with University of Wolverhampton, they were working with a local organization, and we work with high functioning autism with older adults. But I'm hoping that we will also be able to work with children.
Yeah, inshallah, that will be a great work.
Thank you very much.
Okay, I think we don't have a question, and maybe we can close the session. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, today, to me, actually, we have witnessed a powerful exchange of ideas on removing barriers to information technologies for persons with disabilities. And we thank Ebba, Ramesh, and Yeliz Hocam for their invaluable contributions and presentations, and hope we can continue this vital work by ensuring a future where no one is left behind. I think yes, together we can make progress possible. Thank you again, and hope to meet you in the near future in other conferences. Thanks.
Thank you very much.
We thank you.
Bye.
Good night.
Bye. See you.